So, do you guys remember Bayonetta 3? That was a pretty exciting and awesome game that was announced 3 years ago and that has since completely disappeared. I think we all remember the excitement we felt when Bayonetta 3 showed up at the Game Awards in 2017, and Reggie announced alongside of Bayonetta 1 and 2 Collection the fact that a third game was coming exclusively to the Switch. And Bayonetta has kind of become associated with Nintendo over the years because of the exclusivity with Bayonetta 2, and now the continuing exclusivity with Bayonetta 3. But like I said, as exciting as that announcement was, it's been 3 years and we've heard almost nothing about the game. We've seen nothing on it. There's no current indicators to when the game might release. It might sound familiar for Switch fans with maybe some other titles that exist out there. And it's a little bit frustrating, maybe even a lot frustrating, but there were some recent new quotes from an interview with Hideki Kamiya and some other folks at Platinum Games that is giving us a little bit of a window into what's going on, which is nice, but there's also some frustrating elements to it, so I kind of just want to talk about what's going on here. Very quickly, I do want to say that I just recently, this week, finally crossed that 15,000 subscriber milestone on Rule of Two Review, which I've been trying to do for like 5 months, and it became a harder thing to achieve than I was preparing for because things slowed down on the channel over the holidays, which is fine, but I finally did it. So of course, thank you guys so much for helping me cross that milestone. I guess at this point, I want to just continue growing the channel, maybe shoot for 20K in the next couple of years. So as you watch this video, if you seem to like what I'm doing and you like what you hear, then consider subscribing to the channel to help me cross more milestones in the future.
Yes, all right. Well, thank you so much, Reggie. A great announcement. We're excited to hear more about what Nintendo has in 2018. So thank you.
You know, Jeff, you thought I came all the way up here for only one announcement?
I don't know. Is there more, Reggie?
You know, of course there's more. You know, for all of the fans out there, all of the fans who love what Platinum Games does, and we're thrilled to have Platinum Games back on a Nintendo platform, we've got one more thing.
Yeah, that sure was an exciting moment. I think most of us were cheering and hooting and hollering and jumping around and really stoked to see that Bayonetta 3 was coming to the Nintendo Switch. And honestly, just the fact that Bayonetta 3 was being made at all, right? I mean, I myself loved the original game when it first released, and I played it on the Xbox 360. Bayonetta 2 came along on the Wii U exclusive because Nintendo paid to publish it exclusively. And wow, did Bayonetta 2 ever exceed every possible high expectation I already had from that game. It's incredible. I honestly still consider it, at least my first playthrough in 2014 when it was new, I still consider that game a 10 out of 10. I mean, that game to me is a masterpiece. But of course, like I said, we're still dealing with the unfortunate situation where the game has just not been discussed or shown and has basically just disappeared out of existence. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense why, right? Like, at the time that it was announced, they had the little kind of CG trailer preview thing and obviously no gameplay. The game was still very clearly early in development. But one would think that over the course of the next 3 years, not only would we have seen the game, but I kind of think the game would have already launched, and it's really surprising the game is not out yet. Now, like I said, there was the recent interview with Hideki Kamiya about what's going on with that game specifically in 2021, and there's a couple of quotes I want to read that have been heavily featured and doing the news rounds the last two or 3 days. And I think that they're worth discussing, so let's go over those really quickly. Here is what he had to say. When discussing the game showing up in 2021, he says, "It's not really our position to say, but It's January. We've got to have something come out, right? I guess it's safe to expect that something will come out. There's still a lot of year left, is what I'm saying. I understand it's driving fans crazy. In light of that, my suggestion would be that maybe we should all reset and forget about Bayonetta 3. Then, when something finally does happen, it will be a nice surprise, won't it? So interesting quotes, and I get what he's saying, right? He's basically trying to temper everyone's expectations. He's trying to slow everyone's roll when it comes to being so expectant on seeing this game sooner than later. And he's trying to say, hey, just have some patience because we're still working on it and it's just not ready to show. But there's still so much of the year to go because it's, the first month of the year at the time this interview happened, that there's such a good chance you're going to see it in 2021, so just relax. I get that those are all the things that he's trying to say, and for the most part, that makes sense. I mean, we have to afford game developers time to properly develop their games, and I don't think that anyone is really asking for the game to be rushed, right? We're not asking them to cut corners or half-ass it or rush this game. We want it to release as the best version it can possibly be, just like any other maybe mysterious games that we've been waiting to see and hear from, right? Make the best game first, absolutely. But man, after 3 years, to not have anything to show, it kind of makes you wonder, did they maybe show the game a little bit too early? And that might seem like a similar sentiment that a lot of us might share about another title I've been vaguely hinting at here, Metroid Prime 4, a small little title you might have heard me talk about 1 or 2 times in the past. And I think that with Metroid Prime 4, a lot of people have said, Nintendo showed it too early, it's so frustrating, I wish they wouldn't do that, they really screwed up, now the wait seems longer and it seems more painful and all these things. And yes, you could say similar things about Bayonetta 3, but I do think it's worth noting that on the Metroid Prime 4 thing, I don't know if I really see that as being a game that was revealed too early. The main reason I say that, and I even discussed this on a video topic probably about 1.5 years or maybe even 2 years ago, I discussed this exact thing, and the reason I don't think Metroid Prime 4 was necessarily shown too early is because that went through a unique circumstance where the game was canceled, the old team was let go, and then a new version was restarted from ground zero with a whole brand new team. That's not a typical situation, at least as far as we know. And the fact that Nintendo came out to tell us what was happening also makes it unique. So I like to think that if that game didn't go through the crazy reset that it did in early 2019, that almost for sure in 2020, or at least coming up this year in 21, we would already be playing Metroid Prime 4. So that's a unique situation that I think no one, Nintendo included, could have anticipated, right? With Bayonetta 3, though, I maybe lean a little bit more to the side of thinking that, yeah, that game could have been shown a little bit too early. And now, it is worth saying, though, when I say that maybe Bayonetta 3 was shown too early, there's a chance it's gone through some similar sort of development problems and maybe some sort of resets and refreshes behind the scenes, similar to Metroid Prime 4, but that we just don't know about. And it's like, this is probably something that does happen every once in a while with some games where things get crazy and rocky and maybe they reboot a couple of aspects of the game development. And if that happened on Bayonetta 3, that is okay, don't get me wrong. Like I said, you make the best game you can make. But when we don't really know what's going on, and when the game has taken so long to have anything shown, it does feel a little bit like maybe the game was revealed too early. And if I go back to the quotes from Kamiya's interview here, even though I understand what he's saying, it kind of makes his quotes a little bit more frustrating. Keeping in mind that I'm someone that doesn't try to be a purveyor of the entitled gamer sort of mentality, I'm not trying to say that we should all feel entitled to seeing something. It's not about that. It's not about making demands and being immature and pushy about just gimme, 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 gimme because I want it to make me happy. It's more about just looking at the overall situation and what is normal and typical, and I think that it is not normal and not typical for a game like Bayonetta 3 to be shown and revealed the way it was, and then for them to go so many years of complete dead silence. And again, if we go back to the quotes he says here, where he's like trying to plant the seeds of there's so much time in 2021, maybe you're going to see it, which is probably him trying to wink at us and say we are going to see it. I kind of think he is trying to tell us that we for sure will see it this year, but they don't commit to it. And then he goes into the whole, telling people to reset their expectations and forget about the game so it's just a fun surprise when it shows up. I don't know, man. That to me, it doesn't read the right way. I don't think it really came off the way he was trying to mention. And of course, it's worth noting that this is going to be a translated interview, so maybe some context or some phrasing is not being shared in the way it was meant to by Kamiya. So I do also want to bring that up here, okay? It is worth pointing that out. But the sentiment is probably somewhat similar to what he's saying, right? Like, hey, the game's not ready, just forget about it, and you'll just see it when you see it. And it's like, wouldn't you like it for people to just forget about it so they could be so extra surprised when you grace us with a trailer sometime in the future? And it's like, I don't know if that really feels like the way people should be looking at it. I think it's not really fair to tell people to forget about Bayonetta 3. You want people excited about your game. You went through the decision, the business choice, to reveal the game when you did back in, December 2017. You made and committed to that choice, so now you have to commit to the fact that people want to at least know what's going on. Again, very similar to the Metroid Prime 4 thing, it isn't so much about people demanding that the game release, but I think there's a conversation to be had about people at least wanting a look at the game, or at least a significant update, more than just cryptic quotes 3 years after the game was released, or revealed, I should say. That's where there's a little bit more nuance to the conversation. It's not about being angry and making demands, but I do think it's maybe fair for people to want at least some sort of acknowledgement about a game after so many years of being silent. And so what does that mean for Bayonetta 3 in 2021? Honestly, despite all this rambling and hooting and hollering I'm doing here, maybe coming off a little bit cynical, I'm just going to tell you guys that I actually do still expect to see this game this year. And I even think there's a great chance the game is going to release this year. I would actually put my money on Bayonetta 3 releasing in 2021, okay? So what is extra frustrating to me about these quotes and the whole situation is I'm somebody who actually is very optimistic about playing the game this year, yet that makes it more frustrating to hear him talk about, oh, just forget about it. Oh, there's so much time in the year. Maybe something's going to happen. And it's like, bro, if the game is coming out this year and you probably already know that, why don't you just say something more significant? Why don't you give us an actual detail? Why don't you show a trailer or a teaser again? Don't be so cryptic and vague because you're too afraid of saying something. I mean, to be fair, this is a problem in the entire industry with many companies. It's not unique to Platinum or Nintendo or to the Bayonetta franchise. I'm not trying to say that it is, okay? Everyone has been guilty of this stuff in the industry in the past. But in the here and now, when this is the game that we're waiting for and these are the interview quotes that we have, it's like, dude, just say or show something, unless the game has also restarted development, and maybe the release date got pushed back from 2021 to 2023, or whatever the case is. And it's like, if you have to tell us what's going on, similar to Nintendo with Metroid Prime 4, then just do that, man. I mean, oh my goodness, say something. Like, this is a game we're excited to play, and it's a game we're excited to give you our money for. We're not asking for the moon, we're asking for an update and maybe a small, tiny trailer. And so to end this video, I want to kind of wind it down because I know this is going to be one of those few videos where maybe I seem a little bit more negative and pessimistic than I typically am. And I just want to remind you that at the end of the day, like I said earlier, you take the time you need to take to make your game. People shouldn't feel entitled. We're not truly owed anything until a developer is ready to show what they want to show. But that doesn't mean it isn't also frustrating, and that it doesn't make the decision to reveal it in 2017 kind of weird and kind of annoying when you go so long before you actually show or tell us anything about your game. We want to throw our money at you, so just show us something, tell us something, anything more than these cryptic quotes that you gave us here in this interview. So either way, that's the update, that's the news. This is my, opinions and thoughts and theories around the quotes that Kamiya gave us. I do think we're probably going to see the game this year and very likely also play it. So with any luck, in the coming months, we actually hear some sort of confirmation from Platinum or Nintendo about what's going on with this game. And fingers crossed, this year is the year that we're going to get to play it. So that's what I think. Please share what you think. Of course, reminder, please subscribe to the channel if you seem to like what I'm doing. I make several videos and content a week talking Nintendo and Metroid and all things gaming. So if you like what I'm doing, then definitely subscribe. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.